need to find out who this gentleman is. And I'll call him Dr. Charles, but he has his own IT consulting firm. It's his claim to fame, pays the bills. He concentrates in the state of Maryland, but most of his work actually is with the federal government. And then he has what's Alok-Ignite Incorporation. And this is working with the continent of Africa, all 54 countries. But also one of the things he's the chairman of the board for the Minor Football League. And they have 16 football teams on the African continent. And so this is a feeder system for the NFL, which I had not heard of before. So Charles is in a multitude of different activities and outreach. But one of the things he can say, two things actually. One is that he is so locked into the African diaspora. And what they're doing is that they're getting them linked back to the African continent and all the different countries that are there. And so he's president of what's called the Pan-African Unity Summit Group. And this is really an organized way for the diaspora to be able to reach back into the African continent, but for the African continent to reach out, because there's a lot of things that we need to learn from them. It's not natural resources. Dr. Charles Olawole, thank you for being here, and thank you for joining us today. Give him a round of applause.
I want to acknowledge President Bob. Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be part of today's session. I've known Rotary all my life. They are very big in Nigeria, and I've always admired the work you guys do for humanity and your philanthropical endeavors. So the Pan-African Unity Summit Group, we are a think tank, like advisory group. We support both the United Nations and African Union. So the African Union has what is called the African Union Agenda 2063. That document is probably the most important document. It's the blueprint, a very comprehensive blueprint on how they want to develop Africa, what we want the new Africa to look like, how they're going to develop infrastructure, healthcare, education, agriculture, and all those, wonderful plans. It's so extensive that they want to deploy technology. They want to do AI, network slicing, robotic service. They want to do all those wonderful initiatives. And one of the biggest problems that we're having right now in the continent of Africa is the issue of out-of-school children. We have so many kids, so many young adults, so many adolescent youth who have never been in school before. They are all over the streets, and we call them the out-of-school children. And the reason why we have so many, you see, in the whole world, we have about 263 million kids who have never been in school before. Out of this number, over 100 million are from Africa. You begin to wonder, how come Africa is almost half of the out-of-school children in the whole world? The reason is that, see, the UN and UNESCO has given a directive a long time ago. I must be enrolled in the school. But because in Africa there's so much poverty and there's so much different factors, and poverty, the limitation of the religion, and the fact that the government is not paying attention, and all those stuff contribute to all the reasons. And I will list all those reasons why we don't have those people are not enrolled in school. So because of that, and then the fact that the schools themselves are not free. So when you have a group of people who are very poor, who does not have money to put their child in school, and the schools are not free, you cannot enforce a rule or a law compelling them to put their child in school when they don't have the money. And so basically in Africa, it's almost like the rule does not exist. So in the United States, when you have a child between those ages and they're not in school, you see social services calling on you, because you have to do the right thing. But in Africa, it's not the same. So, and then because these kids grow up without any education, that is why it's easy for a terrorist organization to recruit them. It's easy for them to get into crime. It's easy for all those stuff because nobody has taught them anything. So having said that, and when you look at it, it's very sad because everything the world has to offer is in Africa. Africa. Mineral resources, the brain, the best soil, the intellectual, capacity, ability to think, and hard work, tenacity. But just because of the fact that we have some mismanagement of our resources, and this issue has been a big issue. And now the argument and the gospel that we are preaching right now as Pan-African Unity Summit Group with the AU is that this African Union Agenda 2063 is beautiful, is good, it's a futuristic plan. But what we are telling them is that there's no way you can plan and design the future of Africa while you are neglecting the children who are supposed to be the future of Africa. So the number one thing we need to look at is how do we get these children into the school system? And then that's why we came up with our own agenda, which is Agenda 2035. The plan is that by 2035, we should be able to have 20 million kids into the school system. And this has been our goal and our vision. And my reason here today is to engage people with like minds who truly have the love for Africa and see how do we collaborate, how do we partner. It's not something that anybody can do alone. We have these kids who are very smart. You look at them, you see, but there's no future because there's no education. And the reason why they are not in school is multiple reasons. I told you about poverty. There's some of them early marriages. You have what is called some sects believe that Western education is not good for their religion because of the radical Islamic, groups. And you have what's called the child labor. We have pursuit for material wealth by youth. You have shortage of teachers. We have all these reasons that has kept them from school. But we came up with a very solid plan. And how do we, get these people into the school system? And part of it is to put together a working structure. This working structure is so detailed. We've developed what is called a curriculum. We do the uniforms. How we're going to get, and that is where the area of water comes in, because we have to remember a lot of them, they were not in school because of poverty. So we're going to, how do we feed them? How do we, provide, accommodate all this, this new influx in the system? And so how do we manage data? Because now we need to keep data of different groups who are already doing the work. We have a lot of faith-based organizations. We have a lot of NGOs. We have a lot of groups, that are helping right now. So how do we expand, on what they are doing? How do we collect all this data? So and we started that already. We started, we put together an ad hoc committee, and that did the feasibility studies, that did all this stuff. And then we did not do this alone. We were able to partner with the night. So in the world right now, the number one country with the highest number of out of school is Nigeria. Nigeria has the highest number of out of school children. And you can imagine how rich Nigeria is and the giant of Africa, and for them to be having the highest number. So we're going to be using Nigeria as the ground zero, for this. And this initiative is for the 54 countries of Africa, but starting from Nigeria. And the good news about all this is the fact that for the first time, we now have leadership in Nigeria that is so passionate about education. And we have a President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who started this, this new agenda to make sure that the kids are paid attention to. And the First Lady happens to be an educator, So she's also very passionate. And also we have the Ministry of Education. We partner with the Ministry of Education, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. And they are really, really, into this. We have the national development partners, the NGOs, the CSOs, the philanthropists, faith-based organizations, and even the different companies that have plants in Africa. We are engaging all of them. What we are telling them is that you make money in Africa. It is time for you to actually contribute to the education and growth of Africa. Africa is the next frontier right now. We cannot just close our eyes and pretend as if that issue does not exist. And then when these people are left alone is just a time bomb ready to burst. So we need to keep that in mind. And now we need to now look at so many things. When we get them into the school system, how do we sustain? And then what is the plan? So we've been able to come up with a 5, 10, 20 years plan, that is sustainable, and how do we, and that will be done in phases. I don't want to bore you with statistics, but I'm here to just tell you that for the first time, we are in a very good space in terms of planning, in terms of conceptualizing, and in terms of putting together a real structure. So right now, I want to also thank the Nigerian government for the assistance they've given to us. They accepted us with open arms. They are so passionate about this, and they are putting everything behind it. We have people like the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The Minister for Education is Professor Tahi Mama, who has done very well. Is very passionate about this. And we have what is called the Director of Education Support Services, Dr. Gigima. And then we have the Assistant Director, who is such a passionate lady, who, if it's left to her, she will eradicate all the out-of-school children today. That is how passionate she is, and she's the Assistant Director of Bilateral Agreement, Commonwealth and African Affairs. Who's done very well. Also, I want to give a shout out to my partner in the Chief Convener for PANASOC, Dr. Yomi Oyekoya, who is doing the work on the ground. So why I'm here today is, number one, to let you know the issues we are facing. Number two is that we all have a part to play. As long as we are all living on this planet Earth, we are responsible for one another. Part of what we decide to do, we're going to be doing what is called the Pan-African Education Freedom Summit. It's going to be a summit for all the stakeholders to come together and reassess the issue, and we're going to present, our way forward and what do we need to do. And also, we're going to be recognizing people who have done very well, and to help. So, and part of what we're doing is that we're going to be launching some books. We had these books created. This I'm going to give it to everybody to see. This is it's called Language and Reading for Learners. This is for English language, science, mathematics, and these books are going to be given to those kids for free. These are not to be sold, but what we are looking for is for partners, people with like minds who want to participate in this, awesome endeavor. We're going to be giving it to all the kids in all the 55 nations of Africa. So we are very excited for now. Believe me, a lot of work is ongoing. And I want to thank you for listening to me. Rotary Club has always been a bedrock when it comes to humanitarian and philanthropical activities in Africa. Your records are unmatched when it comes to that, So I want to say thank you very much for all you've been doing. Africa thanks you, and we are very grateful. I'm honored to be here today. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
For friends of mine who are 30s and 40s, from Africa, their families are from Africa, always send their kids in the United States to Nigeria to go to school. Before, not college, but high school. So it was just interesting. You talk about that, but I guess they have to pay for that.
Yes.
But the other question I have is, in your plan, is there a plan for the government to pay for kids to go to school like it is here?
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. That's a very good question she asked. I think if I understand you very well, why do people send their kids to Africa for schooling, right? Yeah, that's okay. Then is government going to pay? Okay, good. Number one, the first question, when people send their kids to Africa, it's not because of the quality of education. They want them not to lose their African values, to know how to respect elders, to know, in America, a lot of Africans, when they get here, they take the American culture, which is completely different from ours. We respect parents. We bow to them. We don't call them by their names. We don't, So some parents, when you are here, they get scared that my child might just grow up to be, American. So they send them back home so that they can go and learn the culture, so that they don't lose it, and so that they know that you wake up in the morning, you lie down to greet your parents, you say your prayers, you pack the food, you see people packing with elders holding their stuff, you get it from them. They don't want them to lose those culture. So that is why people send their kids. Now, your second question is about the role of the government in paying for the school fees. You see, that has been very big questions over the years. Education, especially the early one, are supposed to be free, but because of mismanagement of our resources, they don't have budget for that. So, is to allow government to give some scholarships, but also we are going to be leaning more on the NGOs, faith-based, because if we are waiting on the government, it probably wouldn't get done. Except for now that we have a very good government that is actually prioritizing education. Okay, but in those days, the reason why government why it wasn't done, because government wasn't paying attention to it. So now, yes, we have very good partnership with the government, but not only with the government, but also with the other partners, corporate sponsors, and faith-based organizations, NGO, CSOs, and other groups, and good people like you guys. So that is this time around, it's going to be a collaborative effort, and not just the government. Thank you very much.
I think it's always hard to generalize about Africa being a huge and highly diverse continent. But my question is, and applies to the United States also, how do you persuade people, the citizenry, that education needs to be a priority, and especially education for girls?
Thank you. Thank you very much. The question is that how do we educate people, the citizenry, about the importance of education and take education as a priority? The issue we have is not the citizen not seeing education as a priority. It has always been because of other factors. I don't think there's a place in the world where they don't know the importance of education. Right now, but to answer your question, we've done a lot of enlightenment initiatives. We've been right now. You to say the Africa itself is evolving, and people are getting to know that without education, there's no hope for any nation. But the main issue is the issue of poverty and limitations, and that surrounds this issue of education. And we're talking about the girl child, for example. And in some part of Africa, the female children are considered non-priority, because when you have, let's say you have 6 kids and they're all girls, they still see you as you don't have any child at all. So but now things are changing. We are evolving. People are being more educated. There's adverts on TV. There's seminars, workshops, clinics. People are now they see the women taking very vital role, even in politics, in sports. We see them taking leadership roles. So now are people more receptive to having a female as a leader, and we're going to be encouraging more of that. And that's where we're at. Thank you.
We've all heard about the kidnapping and murders of school girls.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you could comment on the progress or lack of progress.
Yes. Okay. What we are trying to do when it comes to that is, number one, to ensure that these kids are educated so that nobody will be able to brainwash them any longer. The reason why Boko Haram and other groups were so successful is because they bang on the idea that these kids are not educated. So they can say anything to them. They can tell them, oh, if you join us, you kill people, you kill yourself, you're going to go to heaven, and you're going to get 70 virgins, and there's no proof of that. But because they don't know no better, they just say, oh, if you are saying it, then you must have some credibility. And they follow them. But there's no way you're going to tell somebody who has a master's degree to go and kill themselves, and they're going to get 71 virgins. They're going to ask you, what are you smoking? So all this, the Boko Haram issue, terrorism, banditry, all these are byproducts of lack of education.
We're talking about education, and we've been talking about education. It's really a multi-pronged kind of challenge.
Yes.
And you didn't speak to it. I'll give you a couple of points, and I know you speak to them.
Yeah.
food, shelter, housing.
Definitely, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Homelessness is off chain over there, sex trafficking around the world, not just in Africa, around the world is bigger than drug trafficking. Sex trafficking is bigger than drug trafficking. So when we ask a question, what is Africa doing about it? Who's buying the little girls? Is because they're not selling them to Africans. No. They're selling them to other folks all around the globe. Just speak, if you can, for a moment about the multi-pronged aspect of implementing the plan, because without food, shelter, housing, and jobs.
Thank you very much. Let me just use 2 minutes to. So when it comes to that, just like you said, very rightly put, it's a multi-pronged, complex issue. The reason why those kids are on the street, if I had time to show you like a documentary, you see there's a place in Nigeria called Kano State, where you see kids, thousands on the street every day, and there's no way where you will not be in tears if you really love humanity. And the reason is that number one is poverty. These kids are put out there to ask for alms, get $1, 20 cents, from anybody that can see, and they take it home. That is how they earn a living. So actually, the parents are using them as in a labor force. So number one, there's no way those people can go to school, but they don't have money for school. Then how do they get money to feed? Because they are being used for that, and the parents are actually relying on them. For the parents who are doing that. So, and you see all this, and then you now talk about, housing. Most of them are homeless. These are homeless people. And then you talk about, how to feed them. You're talking about, the sex trafficking. Of course, you see, all those issues that we have, like I said, they are all byproducts of lack of education. And there's no way we can educate them if those problems are not reviewed or solved. So having said that, part of our plan, out of this comprehensive plan that we have, is to find a way we're going to be building, the shelters for them, and we're going to be using technology. We have, plan with the Microsoft to give the VR solution and all the stuff, and we're bringing, instructors from all over the world to help. Now, as we do this, the plan is that the plan includes food, shelter. That's why we talked about water earlier, and how do we, and then what about the parents? Part of what we plan to do is to actually hire them, some of the parents, either as cooks, security, maid, or whatever. But give any man a job we can give them, because they actually need that also. They need to earn a living. So this is it's a big. That's why I said no organization can solve this problem alone. It has to be a collective effort. I said it earlier and I'm repeating it again. We all have a role to play. We cannot. The days are over when everybody just fold their hands and thinks things will go. Will solve by itself. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to first say, also echo that how much I admire that you're stepping up to make this aware of this problem and to be part of the solution. But I heard you say earlier that some of your new leaders in Nigeria are you have confidence in them that they're okay.
Yes.
So my question, I guess, is because I also heard you say that we just gotta ignore the government because if we wait for them, it'll never happen. But if you now have that leadership, is it possible that they could start showing that leadership of at least anti-government corruption? Because from what you're saying with the mismanagement, it always starts at the top.
Definitely.
So if they're good guys at the top, is it possible to revisit the idea that maybe you put in some stronger penalties for government corruption?
Yes. Thank you very much for that. You see, can we clap for? I like that. No, because remember I was talking about mismanagement of our resources, and one of the biggest part of mismanagement is corruption, and that has taken away a lot of this money that would have been used towards education, healthcare. But those monies have found their way into private pockets, and right now the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu has appointed a man called Malam Nuhu Ribadu, is the National Security Advisor to the President, who was the pioneer chairman of the EFCC. The EFCC is the agency that deals with corruption and financial impropriety and stuff like that. And they are so big on this, is zero tolerance right now. But you know, Rome was not built in a day. It's a process. So while we are going through that process, we also need to get busy and doing the right thing. So those are taken into consideration. The government is fighting corruption with everything in them, you know. But you know, it's a country of over 200 million people, you know. So it's not going to happen overnight. So you know, but I love the idea that you know they've made it very clear that it's not going to be business as usual. You know, zero tolerance on corruption, and then so that they've saved a lot of money. That's why we can now talk about actually bringing, you know, spending those money to bring those kids, you know, from the street to the school system. You know, and I pray with the help of all of you that this will be a success. And we are really excited, you know, because we have the support that anybody could ask for as far as the government, you know, and then we have to take the bull by the horn and drive this, you know. And I know from what I've seen, and with the logistics support, with everything the government has promised us to give us anything we need, you know, and to be able to succeed. And I'm really optimistic, and I'm very grateful.
Thank you, Dr.
very
Charles.
much. Thank you.
Much appreciated. That was great. Dr. Charles, we have a tradition in this club of presenting a tree. We're going to plant a tree in your name in Washington, and you will have the coordinates of that tree, the GPS coordinates of that tree, and it'll be in your name. Thank you so much for your presentation.